Hello my crafty friends. Today we're going to be doing a video tutorial on the football player. Here I have made my rendition of Peyton Manning. This was my first one that I showed a picture of and everybody seemed to really like it. So I had multiple requests for tutorials. I want to warn you guys that the head area is very complicated. This is PG Loomis's basic action figure that I have just redone a few things to and modified actually quite a bit. I modified the head quite a bit and the arms and the legs. So today we're actually not going to be doing the Broncos player. We are going to be doing the Seattle Seahawks quarterback. Not sure of his name, I must confess, but this is going to be the picture. I pulled this picture offline and we're going to base the outfit on these colors here. Remember, you can change and do any color you wish or any team, but let's go ahead and get started today. We're going to be laying out the arm area for action figure. For today's purposes, his arm area here is going to be white and then the flesh color of your choice. And I'm also going to be doing his gloves white today also. Then I just simply tie at the end, double wrap a rubber band around the end. So we'll see all that in the next steps. Let's begin by laying the band area. So for his shoulders, we're going to be using 3 white bands. And this is going to give it more of a puffy look for his shoulder area. So I've got 3 white bands. Then I want 2 white bands. And then I want to do my flesh color. For today's purposes, I'm using a brown shade. So we're going to be doing his arm area. And if you'll notice, the arms are a little bit thinner. How I do that technique is simply take your band, twist it, fold it back on itself. So you formed a double band with 1 band. You're just going to place that on your loom. And we're going to be doing this 4 times. A single band, twist, place back on itself, and place it on your loom. A single band, twist, put it back on itself, and place it on your loom. Once again, we need to do this 4 times. There's 3. A single band, twist, and place back on your loom. To do his hand area, once again I said I was going to be using white for his little glove. We're going to be doing a single band and wrapping it around 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's review this arm. We have 3 bands, 2 bands, 1 band double wrapped, 1 band double wrapped, 1 band double wrapped, 1 band double wrapped, and a cap band wrapped 4 times. That's 1 band wrapped 4 times. We need to do the other arm. So I'm going to just repeat. It's going to be 3 bands, 2 bands, the flesh color of your choice, double twisted and placed on your loom. Oh, missed that one. Double twist and place on your loom. Another single band, double twisted and placed on your loom. Single band, double twisted, folded back on itself and placed on your loom. 1 more single band, double twisted and placed on our loom. And our cap band is going to be a single band wrapped 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. I also need to make the extension for my legs. It's going to be this little area here, which is going to be single bands once again, double twisted on themselves. I've chosen to do green today to match my Seahawks player. So I'm going to take a single green band, double twist it, and place it on the loom. a single green band, double twisted, and placed on the loom. You need to do this 3 times. And then to make his feet, I decided to do black. You can use any color you wish for the shoes. You can do white, you could do blue, you can do black. I just decided to do black. So we're going to take a single band and do 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So that was 1 band double twist, 1 band double twist, 1 band double twist, a single band capped 3 times. And we need to do the other leg. So single band, double twist, single band, double twist, single band, double twist, and our little black shoe. It'll be 1, 2, 3 times. Now we just simply need to loom our leg extension and our arms, and that is just the basic straightforward reach in behind your cat band, loom forward, and there's 1 sock area and shoe over leg. Let's do the other sock area and shoe, and forward, and forward, and forward. I'm going to be pulling the sock area off just to set it off to the side for a moment. I'm just going to take a toothpick, stick down in there, lift it up. You want to give a little tug. You're going to have to play with things some, and you'll have to play with it even more once you get everything on the loom and get straight. So just give it a little tug. Reach into that band. Some people use C-clips there, some people use the end of their crochet hooks, and just give it a little tug to straighten out your band some. That's going to be our legs, our little sock area, and we're going to be setting those aside to use those in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead and do our arm area, which will start off with the glove, the beginning of the hand. Reach in, grab your arm bands and loop forward. Basic looping forward. There's our arm portion, and now we're moving into the sleeve portion. And be sure to grab on the last one all 3 of those bands. We're going to start over here with the other arm. Reach in, loop forward, forward, arm sleeve, and the last 3 bands. Much like the leg area, we're going to just be taking another toothpick, and we're going to be reaching in. Toothpick is just to secure your piece so it doesn't open up and fall everywhere. So we just want to pull our arm portion off. Give that a little tug. And as I'm pulling off these pieces, since I want the little bit of the sleeve area to have a color to it, I'm taking my accent color. I'm just going to take 1 band and wrap it around his arm twice, and just scoot it on up to the top portion at the bottom of the sleeve, and that just gives it a little bit more detail. If your bands are not as elastic, you could wrap 3 times. I'm going to grab my other arm, take it off the loom, a little stretch. Oh, I just lost one of my arms. Not good. So I'm just going to slide that right back through there. Here we go. I'm going to do the same thing to his other arm. I'm going to take my accent band, 1 band, wrap around there twice. I'm going to slide it on up just to give a little bit of trim on the sleeve area. So here we have our two arms and our two sock and sneaker areas. Okay. I'm going to start with the helmet area, and when we're doing the helmet area you want to choose your helmet color. For today's purposes I'm doing blue, so we're going to go from the center peg down one, from the right or center to the right, that's 2 bands. These are double bands. I do change my bands a lot quantity wise, and I will try to do my best to make sure that I tell you what they are. 2 bands from the center to the left, and then we're going to do just 1 band from the right down 1 peg, a single band, 1 band from the left and down 1 peg. And this is going to be where the trickiness starts to begin as far as the helmet, but our helmet is kind of it's a unique shape. It is attached to the head, and I have some pieces here that we can fiddle with later, and it makes the helmet look almost solid in the back. And remember, we are playing with rubber bands. It's not going to look exactly like the player. My husband goes, it kind of looks like a football player, but not really. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, honey, do you know that these are rubber bands? So what we want to do next is to take 2 bands, give them a little tug, and we're going to run them from the second peg down over to the second peg. And this is a different layering technique that I'm using for the helmet, and that's going to give the cross bands in the back. I need to take my flesh color, which in this case I'm using a lighter shade of brown today to resemble the quarterback of the Seahawks team. So that's going to go from peg number 2 in the center down to peg number 3 in the center. We need to pick up a single blue band again and do that from our right second to our right third. A single band again from the left second to the left third. Then we need to grab 2 rubber bands again, and we're going to be placing them from the third left over to the third right. Once again, this is another way of creating the bands in the back. I'm going to move back to my flesh color, and I'm taking 2 flesh colored bands. As I said, in this case I'm using the lighter brown today for the Seahawks quarterback. You guys feel free to post comments of his name, because I'm sure all of you guys will know what his name is. I just like Peyton Manning. Now we need to take 2 flesh color bands again, and what we're going to be doing is going from the second peg on the right, count down 2, and we're going to connect it to the 4th peg down in the center. So second from the right to 4th peg down on the center. You're making a really long diagonal with that piece. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Second left to 4th center. And that's going to be forming our face piece once we get to the looping area. And you guys will see that when the helmet will start to form once we do that. It's going to be a layering technique that I'm going to be doing when we loop this area. So when I get back to that, I will do that in more detail for you guys and girls. I don't want to forget the cross beams here, the little part of the mouth guard and the helmet area. So I'm just going to place 2 bands dangling over the edge, and I just want them to sit there, just those 2 bands to sit there. And on one piece I'm placing a white band also. This is just going to remind me when I go to do the looping that I need to stop there and start my layering technique. Without that, I tend to forget about the face mask area. So let's move back to his neck portion. We're going to be taking 3 of our flesh colored bands, whichever color you choose to use for your flesh, and you want to make the neck area with those 3 bands. When we get to looping, that peg there is going to have a lot of tension on it, just to let you guys know, so be prepared when we get to the looping portion that there's going to be a lot of tension on this one peg. Now I want to move on to my shirt color, which I have chosen to do white for today. So I'm going to go from the right to the left. I'm sorry, from the center peg to the right, from the center peg to the left, and then I want to come down in a straight line, and we're going to be coming down 3 pegs. 1, 2. These are all double bands. I'm back to using double bands on everything. So it's 2 bands, 2 bands, and 2 bands. I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. 2 bands, 2 bands. Oops. You guys see that, what I did? I almost missed one. It's going to be 2 bands and 2 bands. I know my hands are in the way a lot, and I apologize for that. But just to review, we have 2 bands, 2 bands, and 2 bands coming down here on the left. I'm going to switch and start to use some green because I want just a little bit of green on his jacket, on his shirt area. So I'm going to do on the right side 2 green bands. On the left side, 2 green bands, and this is going to complete his shirt area. The next part we'll start working on is the pants area after I fill in the center of the shirt here, because I want a little bit of a V at the neck area, and I'm going to do that in green. So I'm placing those bands in the center, and then I need to fill in down to here with the whites. So it's 2 bands of your accent color. In my case today it's green. And I'm just going to start filling in with the whites. There we go. So that completes our shirt area. Now I'm going to be working on the pants area. For today's purposes, I'm using blue because I want it to look like the Seahawks gentleman. But I've made some modifications in here, and where you see white is actually going to be the blue. Remember, you can choose to use any color of your choice. So I'm going to go 2 bands on the right, 2 bands on the left, 2 bands in the center. And this is forming kind of the waist area. I like to do cross bands in the crotch area, so I'm going to go from the center to the right with a single band. That's 1 band from the center to the right, 1 band from the center to the left, and that makes the area here in the crotch. For some reason I just like that technique a little better than what most people do. I'm going to begin with the legs because our football players tend to be a little bit muscular. This is going to be the thigh area. I'm going to be using 3 bands. 3 bands for the thigh area. So I have 3 blue bands. I'm going to go 1 time. An additional 3 blue bands. I'm going to move over to the left side and I'm going to do the same thing. 3 bands. 3 more bands. That's going to be our thigh area of our leg. These bottom 2 pegs are going to be kind of like the start of where our knee would be. So I'm going to switch that to just 2 bands because I don't want that as thick looking as the thigh area. So 2 bands and 2 bands. For the next portion of our action figure, we're going to actually be laying our horizontal bands. I like to start off in the head area and work my way down. When we begin this project with the horizontal bands, I like to start off with the eyes first, and I'm quickly going to show you how to thread eyes onto your bands. You don't always have to use eyes, I just prefer mine with eyes. This is the technique that Marloom's Creations taught us, and it works wonderfully. She uses dental floss. I just have a piece of thread here. You want to take your piece of thread or dental floss and slide it in through your rubber band. It's probably hard to see my thread on camera, but there's a piece of thread in there. So you're kind of catching your rubber band through your thread, and the thread forms a needle type of situation. You want to take your beads. I use seed beads. They're available at any craft store. Walmart has them also in the jewelry section. And you just simply thread your bead onto the thread. And now we have our 2 beads at the bottom. I take my pinky and stick my pinky in to stretch out my rubber band and just move my eyes onto the rubber band. Release your band and pull out your piece of thread or your dental floss. And here we have strung 2 beads onto our rubber band. And I know that I'm going to need just a little bit of space in between them, so I'm just kind of playing with them. But that's how we quickly thread eyes on. Most of you are familiar with that technique, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details about it. Okay, so let's lay our horizontal bands. I like to start off at the top first, and I do my horizontal bands just a little bit differently than most. I'm going to cover up these 3 pins here with 1 band, and because I think it's a little too loose at times, I take my hook and on the center pin I grab half of the band and just wrap it around that center pin again. So that was half the band wrapped around the center pin. So you have almost like a double wrapping with the 1 band on the center. So let's do that again, review that again. 1 band on those 3 pins. Take your hook and just grab one side of it and loop it around. So you're actually looping around that center peg. Since I don't want to forget about my eyes for my player, I'm going to be placing them on top of the horizontal bands, and you're just simply going to stretch out your bands right across the center there. They sort of form a horizontal band also, but it's not tight enough, and you kind of need the extra space just to sort of make his face look a little puffy and not so smushed. So that was 1 horizontal band with a twist around the center peg, and then I laid the eyes across. For this project, I do not need to do any other horizontal bands in here because of the way of the layering technique on the face. This face is completely different than the way most people do their faces. Let's move on down to the body. And because he's going to be broad in the shoulder area, I'm only using 1 band over those 3 pegs. I want him to be a little bit tighter coming down towards the waist area. So I'm going to take 1 band, and it's going to be double twisted over the next 3 pegs. I'm sorry that my hands are in the way, but that was 1 band double twisted. Here's another portion of her waist, and because I don't want white to show through, I want it to be green. I know that I need to use a green band. It's going to be green, and once again double twist onto your loom. Here I'm going to need blue because of the blue bands in his pants area, but his hip area is going to get a little wider again because you know they're big football players, so I'm only doing 1 band. So let's review. We have a single flesh colored band twisted around the center peg once, and your horizontal bands for your eyes, if you choose to do eyes. If you don't want to do eyes, omit this part here. I'm going to move down to the chest area. First 3 parts of the chest area is just a single band across those 3 pegs. Moving into the waist area, it's 1 band double twisted around those 3 pegs. Still a portion of the waist, it's a single band double twisted in those 3 areas, on those 3 pegs. And back to the hip, 1 band just by itself on those 3 pins. Now we can begin to lay our feet onto our loom. And to do that, I simply take my toothpick with my feet and I stretch it across. So I like to use toothpicks with this part. Sometimes I'll use the end of my crochet hook because it doesn't have a loop, but many of you use the Rainbow Loom hook, so your crochet hook wouldn't have the end. I'm going to take my second sock and shoe area. I'm going to lay it across my pin. And there's my little feet. And also it's kind of like the cap band for the legs. I'm going to do the same thing for my arms. Slide down a little bit. I have to turn. I like to turn to do my arms. And you're going to place that across the arm area. Be sure to get all of them on there. And one just fell off. Did you guys see that one fall off? I didn't have it hooked. So I'm just going to pull it back off. I'm going to run my crochet hook through the loops. It happens to me all the time. So I need to get that hook back on there, that loop back on there. I'm taking my 3 bands, I'm just going to pull it right through the arm area. And there we go, I have my 3 bands back there. And we can just slide it on the loom again. Happens to the best of us, guys, happens to the best of us. And here we are doing the other arm. If you're really good with PG's action figures, you could do the arms like he does in the Thor tutorial. And that'll give it a more muscular look also. However, I just like to do it this way because it seems to be easier. Okay, now guys, we have everything laid out. Our legs are on, our arms are on. We need to stop when we get to this point. So I've got my stopping point set and ready to go, and I know when to stop. We're actually going to begin looming. So let's loom down with our left leg, and it's going to be straightforward looming. Reach in, grab your leg bands, and come forward. Reach in, come forward, and I missed a band on that one. It was back to the 3 bands when we did the thigh area, so I just had to go in and re-grab those 3 bands. This will be another 3 bands, and I'm looping straight forward. You'll see that it's come off slightly. These bands that I'm using are not real tight, so I'm just going to push that back down there. I need to do the crotch area, which will be the top band, diagonally to the right center peg. And I'm just going to continue to work all the way up to the arm area. So I'm going to reach in and work all the way up to the arm area. His waist. Some of these bands are going to be tighter because we have our double crossed horizontal bands. And I'm going to do the shoulder to the center. So you want to reach in through all of those sleeve bands and your little shirt portion band to get the bottom 2 bands and loop that over to the center. I saved my center for the end because I want a nice V area with that green So I'm going to save my center portion for the very end. I'm going to come over and I'm going to do my right leg, and it's just straightforward looming again. You need to fast forward or pause. We all work at different speeds. I've reached to where my diagonal band is for the crotch area, and I just want to take it off to the center. And I can begin looming right up the right side again. And then we've reached the shoulder area again. We're going to do that diagonal. I'm going to just tug on that a little bit. I'm reaching all the way down there through everything to get my bottom 2 bands. We're going to go off to the center. Sometimes you may have to hold your arms down so they don't slip up with it. We're going to move right back down here to the crotch area. And I apologize, this part's hard to see because of my color choices today with the blue loom under it. So I'm just reaching into the crotch area. And once again, I am just straight forward looming straight up. Y'all should be familiar with this technique by now. If you're making action figures, I'm sure this is not your first one. Now we've gotten to the collar area, and that's going to give us our nice little accent piece. And now we're going to move on to our neck area. So you want to reach in through all those bands, and you want to grab your 3 flesh colored pieces and do your neck area. You want to grab your diagonal 2. Now mine are going to the right. Top 2 diagonals, in this case, is going off to the left. And you want to grab your center piece and go straight forward. We can actually keep going straight forward with our center pieces. We won't be needing them for the layering portion. So let's go straight forward with our center pieces until we reach the top. Okay. Now we need to worry about the layering for the mouthpiece. What you want to do is to take everything that you have here and you want to push it down. Push down all of this stuff as far as you can, because we're going to be needing these pegs. I'm taking my white band off at the current moment. It was just there to remind me what I needed to do. So from our 1, 2, 3rd peg down, we're going to take our band from the left to the center, which will be basically covering the neck area. We're going to do the same thing on the right side, from the right to the center. We want to take our white band, this is going to be the little mouthpiece part, and we want to wrap it around that peg 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that was a 4-time cap band. Now we want to loop the mouth guard area by taking our hook and doing our diagonal across. Reach down into that cap band area again and do your diagonal across. And then we can begin to loom the rest of the helmet area. I'm going to reach in and grab the single band that's way down here. So I'm reaching through everything. Grab my single band. I'm going to come straight forward and loom straight up. I'm going to reach down into all of this mess, which it's a very tight set of bands. Very tight because we have so much tension on it, and you want to get your single band that you laid for the outside edge of the helmet. So reach beyond all of your horizontals and get to that single band at the very bottom and loom straight forward. I need to stop right there because I need to do the other side, and then we're going to be adding this little piece to kind of make the curvature of the helmet, the front lip of the helmet. So I'm going to move over to the left side, grab my single band, and move forward. Once again, we're going to reach through all of those bands and get our bottom band and go straight forward. It's really tight on that band for me. I don't want this to break in this area, so I'm just relieving some tension on that band. Now we need to do our, like I said, our helmet area. You want to take 3 of your helmet colors. In my case today it's blue. We're going to take our hook. We're going to wrap it around our hook 1, 2, 3 times. Let's do 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So it's a single band on your hook 4 times. And we have to do that twice. So another single band, 1, 2, 3, and 4 times. Then I take an additional single band, and I need to get these little loops onto my single band. So I'm just simply sliding them over onto that single band there. And then you want to take it and you want to place it on your center peg. I'm sorry, across from your center peg. You want it to be sort of over top of your center loop here. So it'll be left peg, and first right peg. And then we can begin looming again. Reach through that as you would a cat band. And move your loom from the left to the right, and then right to the center. And as I said, this is giving our helmet that little bit of a puffiness. I want the top of my helmet to have a little bit of color to it, so what I've decided to do is just use a green band to tie off the charm with, or the figurine with. And you just reach all the way through all of those, grab your band, and tie it in a slip knot. Pull that off to the center. Be sure to hold on to that. Double check and make sure that all of your loops look like teardrops and you haven't forgotten anything. And we're going to stick our hook in there. You want to do something to relieve the tension. You don't want to just rip it right off. If you just rip right off, it's not going to work so well for you. It's going to be very deformed looking. So I take my hook or skewer and I reach down in there, especially the pieces that have multiple parts on them, like our little mouth guard right there, and our neck area that has so much tension, and our shoulder areas that have so much tension. When you reach the body area, you can kind of just go and lift in some spots. And then when I get down here to my feet again, since they were tighter bands, I just pull them off like that. So here we have our Seattle Seahawks football player. I'll move his arms up a little bit. His face doesn't look so good at the current moment. And this is something that you guys are going to have to just play with. Just tug on the bands. Bring his face out just by simply tugging on these outside bands of the helmet. Bring his face out. Tug his helmet up a little bit. Just play with him until you get him looking suitable to your liking. You want to make his arms come forward. Take your hook, the end of your hook, or a toothpick. Toothpick might work better. You want his arms to move forward. Find his joints, be where the tightness begins. Stick your toothpick in there. Pull the arm forward and the toothpick the opposite direction. I'm going to stick my toothpick in again, a different one. I'm going to pull the arm forward and the toothpick in the opposite direction. And this is going to give you a curvature of your arms. The same thing with the feet, just straighten them up straighten things up. You can make his knees bend by doing a similar technique. Place your toothpick in or your hook end and tug. If you want him to have his leg going back, if you want his leg going forward, completely up to you. This little guy, we did make the quarterback, so he's actually going to be standing. We want to hide this little tail in the back, and here we have our football player. I'm just going to show you a quick way to make the football. Very easy and simple. Take a single brown band and wrap it around 1, 2, 3 times. I've taken 3 brown bands and 1 white band. You kind of want your white band to be in the center. I'm sorry, 2 brown bands, 1 white band. So you want your white band to be in the center, like an Oreo. And you want to pull your cat band across it and place it back onto your hook. Then you can fiddle with the whole thing here to get your white band towards the center, and that's what's going to give the little white sort of ticking area. And we just want to finish off the opposite end with 2 bands. We're going to be tying a 2-band slip knot. So just pull through, and we're going to be doing a slip knot with 2 bands. And depending upon your can't say that word, how elastic your bands are, that's going to kind of make the difference of how your football looks. But there's our little football that we can either attach to his arm, slide it up under there, thread it through his body, hide the bands, and you can have it down as a hiker, little hiker guy, center I think they're called. But yeah, we should be ready for the Super Bowl now. We got our Denver Bronco Peyton Manning and our Seattle Seahawk. I really wish I knew his name. Please let me know what his name is.